rule says that a traitor should be dangled before the rising tide, which he was, and a traitor should be assassinated with the marks of Masonry, the group that he had betrayed, ergo the 5 bricks within his pockets.
While the assassination of a pope is fiction in Angels and Demons, the world watched in horror as a real assassination attempt of Pope John Paul was broadcast live on television. Even today, the question remains, was it a lone gunman, or was there a larger plot?
The assassination attempt against Pope John Paul II in May 1981 in St. Peter's Square is the only murder attempt in recent times. He was surrounded by Vatican security officials, including senior officers of the Swiss Guard.
The attempted assassination of John Paul II back in 1981, that it wasn't another case of a lone gunman, this guy Ali Kha, who was a Muslim, that it involved both the KGB through some weird, still shady Bulgarian connection.
Did Pope John Paul II's strong stance against communism incite the plot to assassinate him? Was his attacker part of an ancient secret society called the Assassins, which have been linked to the Knights Templar?
Ronald Reagan and John Paul II set up this agreement where they were in a battle. It was kind of toward the end of the Cold War. So they wanted to get rid of communism. And the liberation theologists, which were all in South America and Central America at that time, at the height of their controversial rise, Reagan said, if you help me defeat communism, I'll do what I can to kind of keep the liberation theology movement, you know, down there and allow you to keep more control over those people. It's documented that Reagan and John Paul II, as you know, the head of the Vatican, were going to try and do what they could to stamp out communism. So naturally, the Soviet Union felt threatened enough to perhaps use this Bulgarian connection to off the Pope.
If there was a conspiracy to kill John Paul II, the Vatican's perpetual secrecy effectively killed the investigation into the case.
We have the case just after the attempted murder of Pope John Paul II in 1981, when the Italian authorities tried to find out information from the church about what they might have known about the run-up to that attempted assassination. But there, the church refused to give any information to the magistrates, so much so that one Italian public prosecutor accused the Vatican of placing a tombstone on his inquiry.
But it wasn't just the Vatican that was threatened. Reportedly, the Illuminati had infiltrated the Freemasons. And across the ocean, in a prosperous America, the Freemasons were surprisingly aggressive at infiltrating the government of the United States, eventually reaching its highest levels.
To the question which presidents were Mason, it's more which presidents were not Masons. People up to George Bush and Delano Roosevelt, Harry Truman, Reagan, it's just a laundry list. Just about every president has been a Freemason. It's just funny to think of who the Freemasons have been or are, like the astronaut Buzz Aldrin or John Wayne or Bob Hope or W.C. Fields, people that you never, it's like, what are they getting out of being a Freemason? And it's a fraternal organization. And this is where the Freemasons have been at odds.
Franklin Roosevelt was one of them that did reach the highest level of Masonry, and he worked his way up for a long time in Masonry. Gerald Ford might have been given the title strictly as an honorary basis, but some Masons believe as many as 1/3 of the presidents of the United States were Freemasons.
During Franklin Roosevelt's presidency, a subtle change in the $1 bill is thought to have signaled the arrival of a powerful secret society in the United States.
One of the things Dan Brown mentions in his books is the Masonic imagery on the dollar bill, and there's much to that. We have the Great Seal, which has a lot of Masonic imagery, such as the arrows and the olive branch. Here we have the all-seeing eye of knowledge at the top of the pyramid, but it's separated from the rest of the pyramid. And this is Illuminati imagery indicating that they alone have this knowledge and that all the rest of us are down here on the lower part of the pyramid.
Treasury Secretary Henry Wallace, who according to Simon Cox was a Freemason, added Masonic symbols to the Great Seal of the United States. He also added these frightening words.
The term Novus Ordo Seclorum actually means the New World Order. Masonry calls this god the Great Architect.
So, in other words, we have New World Order right here on our dollar bills, and yet most people are unaware of this.
The dollar bill might be just the beginning of evidence that the long trail of the Knights Templar to the Illuminati and now to the Freemasons has infiltrated the government of the world's largest free nation.
The Washington Monument is an obelisk. It's in the form of an Egyptian structure that basically has the same meaning. It was originally for the god Osiris, but it's just a sign of any god and the power of that god. The whole layout of Washington, D.C. is done to a sacred architecture. The Capitol building, the White House, and the Washington Monument are the three most important pieces there.
The most startling evidence of Illuminati influence is with the Bilderberg Commission, arguably one of the most powerful groups in the world who many suspect of controlling the world's economy and even its governments.
The Bilderbergers came along in 1954, I think. They were founded by another Freemason, this guy Prince Bernard, who was part of this Merovingian dynasty, as he claims, also affiliated with the Nazis. They used to meet in this hotel in the Netherlands called the Hotel Bilderberg. So they just started calling them the Bilderbergers. At one of their later meetings, David Rockefeller, who a lot of people see him as this huge kind of master puppet, kind of pulling the strings of world leaders, he proposed the idea at a Bilderberger meeting that we should have a commission, which later came to be called the Trilateral Commission, which is, coincidentally, there are three parts of the pyramid.
The purpose of the Bilderberg Group was a united Europe. Started with a common market. You now have the European Union that is desperately trying to get its member nations to ratify a constitution that will mean that the already top-heavy governments of these individual countries in Europe will now be run by a super top-heavy organization called the European Union. Bureaucrats will run all of Europe. There will be no borders. The rule of the few over the many.
There's a great deal of secrecy, especially with the Bilderbergers. There's a great deal of privacy of what goes on within the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission. And the fact that they want to try and shape the world as they see it, that's what is best for the world, and we know how to do that. That's what leads to lumping them in with the New World Order, the pyramid, the eye in the pyramid, lumping them in with Masonic traditions.
The Vatican is saved at the end of Angels and Demons. But does the fight between science and the Church continue today?
I've been asked in the struggle between the Illuminati and the Church, who's winning? And it's hard to say because this is a sub rosa conflict. You don't read about it in your newspapers or your news magazines, and you don't see it on television. But stepping back and taking the long view, I think you find that the influence of the Church is waning, and there is growing chaos in the political field and growing control in the corporate field. So I would have to say the Illuminati seem to be ahead at this point.
They've always fought against science, and even though it's 400, 500 years late, they finally just got around to absolving Galileo of claiming that the sun was the center of the universe.
They would still kill Galileo today or chain him up. They would still burn Giordano Bruno at the stake as they did if they could get away with it. They just know they can't get away with it. They have to do this by other means. That is the hope. That is the plan. That is the strategy, to support situations in which chaos will reign.
Does the Illuminati still wield power in secret societies? Are they still fighting for a new world order?
This is a war that's been going on for a long time for control of the planet. How do you fight such a war?
And in the end, who will win?